Hello and welcome back to the WTF Sunderland Preview Podcast as we look ahead to our first away trip of the season at Burnley this weekend. Sunderland marked their return to the Premier League in emphatic fashion as they dismantled West Ham 3-0 at the Stadium Light, and somehow we head to Turf Moor in the Champions League places. But can Burnley hold our title challenge? Well, there's one man that'll let us know. We have returning guest as always. I think it's 3 years in a row now, Joe from the TurfCast. He's going to give us a lowdown, mate. But before you do, how are you doing? You alright?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. How are you? All good?
Yeah, I feel like it's weird. Obviously, we're both really excited to be back in the Premier League, but I'm not going to lie, but we were both a bit disappointed with this fixture, weren't we, getting the first?
Yeah, yeah. You say excited. I'm not sure. I have been as excited. I'm not sure Burnley fans in general have been excited as Sunderland fans. Not just because you've been doing a lot of smart business in the market. And obviously, you've got off to a good start. But the last two times we were in the Premier League, it wasn't an enjoyable experience. So I've been getting a lot of PTSD and flashbacks from the last time we were in the Premier League under Vincent Company when it was awful. Let's not beat around the bush. We were god awful that time in the Prem. So yeah, I think we'll be more pragmatic this time. I think we'll do better than that last time. But whether we have enough to stay up, that's a different debate.
I think first and foremost, we've actually got a league game to speak about, which I didn't have last week. So, look, on paper, you were the only promoted team to lose on opening day, but you had comfortably the most difficult fixture in the shape of
Yeah.
Spurs away. Obviously, you lost 3-0. I don't think, well, look, you never want to lose 3-0, but Spurs are a decent enough team, though. They levelled PSG, I think, a few days beforehand. But how do you feel about the performance and like whatnot a few days on?
Performance was all right. 3-0 flattered Spurs, but we never looked like, getting anything out of it. So a draw or a Burnley win would have been, a bit ridiculous on the balance of play. Spurs did deserve to win the match, but 3-0 definitely flattered them. They scored one good goal, one great goal, and the other one was just us being a little bit lazy at the back, and I think a little bit caught in headlights not long after the Richarlison screamer. But overall, the performance was okay. We controlled large parts of the game pretty well. We played some good stuff. We had a couple of half chances. This is what I mean. Like, we played well, excuse me, but we didn't create anywhere near enough. There was a couple of half chances here and there. There was one moment where I had a sort of freeze frame on the last full-time show that we did after the match, and how we didn't get a shot away from that freeze frame is beyond me. So Kyle Walker pings the ball cross field to Jadon Anthony. Jadon Anthony's got this brilliant touch where even though there's two defenders around him, he did it so many times in the Championship last season, and you're thinking he's probably not going to do it so much in the Prem. Does it first game, takes a touch, he's leaning into the ball, takes two defenders out of the game, and then you've got Lyle Foster directly in front of him and Hannibal a little bit further to the side. The pass wasn't great from Anthony, admittedly. And Hannibal just dallies, and the defender gets back. And there were a couple of times where Foster was through on goal, but Van der Ven is probably the most ridiculously fast defender that I've ever seen in my life, and he covered them quite a few times. So yeah, we played well and did okay, but we probably did deserve to lose, if I'm being honest with you, and we definitely didn't create enough. I think you're on mute, mate.
Yes, I am. Brilliant. I'm going to leave that in just to show people how professional I am. Um, I think if we look at your summer, because obviously that's the most important thing outside of the last result, you lost kind of the spine in many ways. You lost James Trafford, CJ
Yeah,
Egan-Riley, Josh Brownhill, but you have kept Esteve, which I think is probably the best of the two centre halves. You've added Broja, Tuanzebe, Kyle Walker, you mentioned there, and a fair few more. You've actually spent a fair bit. I know some of that is based on players you had to sign from last season, but what have you made of your transfer business? Because I think the money we're spending, a few people are going, oh, but Burnley did that. But I think they're both very different, and I think naturally you'll be recruiting in a different way to the way you did last time under company. Because A, it's a different manager. B, that didn't work. So what have you made
yeah.
of it so far?
Our summer, it's been a bit like there's an argument to be made that it's probably a weaker side that we have at the minute, but it's difficult to see. We haven't seen Ugochukwu to Anzabi. We haven't really seen much of them yet. But obviously losing James Trafford is a blow, for how bad he was in the Premier League last time under Vincent Company. But I think a lot of that was the system, was the fact that we were just awful at the back. But he was pretty poor last time in the Premier League. But obviously he's gone down to the Championship, probably being one of the best keepers the Championship has ever seen. It's the best defence the Championship has ever seen. That is statistically a fact. So it's a shame to lose him as part of that. It was also a shame to lose CJ Egan Riley, but I did feel like CJ was replaceable. The thing that annoyed me the most about CJ Egan Riley is he was a massive asset, and we could have sold him on for quite a bit of money. You know, you're talking 15, 20 million easily, and he's gone to Marseille for free. So that's the biggest worry with that one. Forgetting we also lost Josh Brownhill. He's not actually signed for anybody yet, which is weird. So he would rather be out of contract than play for Burnley Football Club in the Premier League. But Josh Brownhill's one of them. Even though he was brilliant last season, and without his goals, they don't go up. And I feel like it was maybe the first time that Josh has done enough in the Championship to say that he could maybe make the step up in the Premier League. He's never made that step up in the Premier League. So again, it was one of them like, oh, maybe he's not good enough for the Prem anyway. We can bring somebody in, and we have brought in Ugochukwu as well, who's going to play alongside Cullen. You would think. So yeah, it's difficult to judge it yet, but we're doing the exact opposite of what we did last time because we're bringing in all these unknowns from Europe. Well, I say unknowns within the Premier League, and they just didn't work in the Prem. They didn't like the physicality of the Prem. It took too long to gel. We saw flashes like of games where we played really well, and you're thinking, right, we're going to kick on here and stay up, but obviously ultimately it wasn't to be. So yeah, it's difficult to judge yet. I would like to see in three new players, if I'm honest, even from this stage. But I feel like we're done in terms of spending. Hopefully, we can utilise the loan market.
You mentioned Brownhill there and also Trafford and Egan Riley, but I think to lose one of them would probably be difficult, but to lose all three of them is obviously a bit of a pain in the backside, if we're completely honest. But you are right in what you're saying in the sense that Brownhill's been one of those players that's probably too good for the Championship, probably not
Yeah.
quite good enough for the Premier League. I think he's been linked to West Ham, but he's also been linked to clubs that are not Premier League clubs, and there's probably a reason for that. How big of a miss are they going to be, or are they all to an extent replaceable?
Um, I think everyone's replaceable to an extent, but when you're a club the size of Burnley, with the spending power the size of Burnley, are you going to get better players? Like, look, I know Dubravka is what 36, 37. He's a good, decent Premier League goalkeeper and probably just as good as Trafford at this stage. But then, obviously, this time next year, Trafford's probably going to be England number one, playing for Man City regularly. Obviously, I don't know if that not Dubravka, Donnarumma deal's gone through yet. I've not really been paying attention to it, so that could obviously caveat that. And Brown, I do think Brown was replaceable in terms of Premier League, yes. But like you say, it's losing all three at the same time. When we did so well last season with them in the team, it's a shame to see them all sort of like want to leave at this stage. I understand the Trafford one, I get it. I feel like he really is going to be probably one of the best keepers that England's ever produced. He will be England number one as soon as Pickford decides he doesn't want the shirt anymore. Trafford will be the England number one going forward. I am 100% confident with that. CJ Egan Riley is probably going to be in and around the England squad when he's a bit older, but not sure if he's going to be a starter. Whereas Browner, like I said, he was the club captain as well, so it is disappointing to see him decide to go into pastures new. But look, obviously, it's a job at the end of the day to them, so he obviously wanted a change of scenery, and that scenery at the minute seems to be the job office. But fingers crossed for him, he can get something sorted because I do like Josh and I want him to do well. I've seen him linked to Celtic, and that one just makes more sense, I think, because I think he'll go up and do very, very well there in that league. But yeah, we'll see. I would like to see him in the Prem with Burnley, but obviously it's not to be.
Looking at the science you brought in, like I say, you have spent a decent whack of cash. I think it's around like the 80, 90 million. You can correct me on that. And some of the
Mm.
players you brought in are players that have got Premier League experience. Is there any that, I know it's really early doors, but any that stood out in the pre-season games and going into last week's game that stood out as someone that, looks like, based on what you've seen, would be the best so far?
Well, we haven't actually seen much of him yet, unfortunately. That's the problem at the minute. We haven't seen Brozier yet. Apparently needs to do some work on his fitness, which is just infuriating. He's got a poor injury record, and then we sign him, and he's like, "Oh, we can't play the first few games because he's injured." Excellent. I think Leslie Ugochukwu is, like I said, I'm not seeing much of him. He came on against Spurs, but it was quite late on. But he's one that I am quite excited about because midfield the last few times we've been in the Premier League, we've been far too lightweight in the midfield, and he's a big sort of like bruising type lad, or looks like it anyway. So it'll be interesting to have someone like him next to somebody like Josh Cullen, who's the exact opposite. But Cullen played very well on Saturday, to be fair. And yeah, all the other ones. Quintus Hartman, probably butchered that first name. I always do. He looked okay against Spurs, to be fair. He looks a good fullback. The one for me, and it's interesting this because when we signed him, I remember getting loads of stick off that a particular Leeds fan, sort of like saying his legs have gone. What you're signing him for? And he's probably looked really good. Like he's looked a class above. You can tell he's played for England for a long time. He's won titles. He's won European titles. You can tell he's the type of player that's done that in his career. Is he as fast as he was 5 years ago? Absolutely not. Can he still ping the ball 50 yards onto a sixpence? Yes, and he was doing that for fun against Spurs. So Kyle Walker, to be fair, has been the one that has stood out the most. But it's hardly a high bar at the minute because, like I said, I've not seen too many of them yet, which is unfortunate. But fingers crossed we can see more of him in the coming days, and I would suspect the likes of Leslie Ugochukwu will play against you guys. I'm not sure if Brogier's going to be ready. You got Loam Takiona again. He's come from Lazio, young player, might do well. Um, as he gets older, I'm not too sure. Bashir Humphries, I know he was here last season, but it was an obligation. And then obviously this is a problem with the fee that obviously that you mentioned earlier. A lot of these, even though it is expenditure, are players that were here last season. So your Zian
Mm.
Flemings, your Jaden Anthony's, your Bashir Humphreys, they were we all had obligations on them. So even though yes, you are correct to mention that expenditure, it's not done anything to the squad. They were here last season. So yeah, it's difficult to pick somebody to stand out when you haven't really seen too many of them. But I'd probably just go for Kyle Walker at this stage.
Can I say, what did you make of the signing of Kyle Walker? Because look, it's not directly the same, but you're bringing in someone who's won everything pretty much, apart from with bloody England. But that's another conversation for another day. He came mighty close, and I think arguably outside of maybe Gary Neville, probably the best English right back in the Premier League, sort of since it's been classed as the Premier League, shall we say? But he's 35. He's had a rough couple of years, and I think a lot of people. I mean, we know what Twitter's like, and I don't necessarily like the rage culture that I've started noticing, or the rage bait culture that seems to exist in the Premier League, which I haven't seen for 8 to 10 years. But a lot of
Yeah.
people poked fun at you for the Kyle Walker signing. I think it made total sense. Did you? What did you make of the signing first and foremost, and how was it received within the Burnley fan base?
I think if you're poking fun at that signing, then you don't really know football.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not necessarily a case of Walker might not be good enough anymore. It's a, well, again, what we did last time, and to be fair, I won't say I've criticised Sunderland's business, but I did look at Sunderland's business and was a little bit worried in the sense of, oh, they're doing similar to what we did last time. But the difference is you brought in somebody like Granit Xhaka who has that Premier League experience, who can be the rock in the middle. Yes, Kyle Walker's not the rock in the middle, but he has that Premier League experience. What we did last time, we just signed a load of kids who couldn't handle it, and they had nobody there to drag them over the line. Ashley Barnes wasn't here at this stage. We'd let him go to Norwich. All the players that we had, and I think Jay Rodriguez was the most experienced player here at the time. And it's good to have somebody there like that who's seen it, he's done it all. He can put an arm around the shoulder and he can talk to people. He can give people advice. I think it's a good bit of business. And yes, he didn't look great when England played against was it Serbia, and he didn't look great in his last few seasons. Last season at City, and I think he struggled at AC Milan as well. But City and AC Milan are going to play high lines, and he's going to get. I say he's going to get exposed. He was the third fastest player on the pitch on Saturday, behind Van der Ven and another Spurs player. So even if Kyle Walker has 75% of his legs left, that's still quite fast. He's still one of the fastest players on the pitch, as he was on Saturday. But the difference is Burnley don't play high line. Obviously, they play not probably will be a low block on some games, but quite a low defensive line. And they actually went a back five to a back five on Saturday against Spurs. So again, he's part of a back three, back five, whatever you want to call it, not as a wing back as one of the centre backs, just there to sort of like spray the ball around, be the calming person, and he played very very well. I gave my man of the match on Saturday to Josh Cullen. But I think if I wasn't going to give it to Josh Cullen, I probably would have either given it Lyle Foster, who I would have got some pelters for off some Burnley fans because he doesn't seem to be very popular, and I can understand that when he's only scored what 9 goals in 3 years. But Kyle Walker wasn't far behind. He played very very well.
Yeah, I think Howard was a good sign. I agree with kind of echo everything you've said there. Obviously, if he had the legs he had and he was the player he was, he'd be playing for Man City still. So I think that's probably
Exactly, yeah.
what needs to be remembered. But I looked at your opening fixtures now. Our fixtures, look, everyone looked at Sunderland this season. Everyone looked at Burnley as winnable fixtures. We both know that. We know what that's going to be up until we change that. But we looked at our opening fixtures of West Ham, Burnley, Brentford at home. We went, okay, there's winnable games within that. So I thought, what's Burnley's like at the moment? And I saw after us, you had Spurs away last week, then you got us,
Yeah.
then you got Man United, Liverpool, Forest, Man City, and Villa. That's quite disgusting, if I'm completely
It
honest with you.
is.
That's awful.
The Premier League hates us, and that's quite clear when you look at that, isn't it?
It feels strange to say it this early on, but quite clearly, with the ambitions we both have, which I think, if I'm honest, are 17th probably for both of us,
Yeah.
and we'll take it. How much pressure's on this game for Burnley? There's pressure on it for us, don't get me wrong, but how much is on Burnley considering what you got to come?
Yeah, I think there is. I saw someone just on Twitter actually discussing whether it's a 6 pointer or not, and a lot of people were responding saying, "Of course it is, because look at the fixtures that we've got." But it seems silly to call it a 6 pointer at the second game of the season. But yeah, we've already lost once. If we lose this one again, the next point, could we possibly get it at home against Leeds? They played quite well in the first half last night against Everton. Everton then did come onto it. Never a penalty in a million years, in my opinion. What's he supposed to do? Just chop his arms off. And then after that, we've got Wolves away, and then even then, like you've got a couple of winnable fixtures there. Like we never have the run that like you guys have with them first three fixtures in the season, because then you've got Arsenal and you've got West Ham. You think, oh, winnable, but then it's Chelsea, then it's Brentford and Palace, maybe there. Brentford, Palace, Newcastle, Fulham. I'm not sure if Newcastle are going to be very good this season. It does get a little bit better and more winnable games around the December, January mark. But if we haven't got a win on the board by the time we play Leeds on the 18th of October, then it's looking bleak, isn't it? And the last time we got, not the last time we got relegated, the first time we got relegated, when Sean Dyche started as the manager, it was exactly the same problem there. We didn't have a win until I can't remember exactly when it was, late October, early November, and then you're just playing catch up. So yeah, it's them fixtures are disgusting, and if we get off to such a poor start where we lose against you, then lose against Man United, then lose against Liverpool, and lose against Forest, which are all more than plausible, then you've got City and Villa next. Then you're going into mid-October with 0 points or maybe 1 point here and there, and then the writing's on the wall at that point already. So yeah, there is pressure on the game, of course there is, but it's also the second game of the season, so it's difficult to create a must-win, have to win this game 6 pointer sort of that process in my head. Like say if you go 2-0 up, I'll be calm. I won't be one of them fans going, that's it, we're done. Because it's the second game of the season. But then when I'm seeing us get beat at home to Leeds on the 18th of October, we don't have any points at that stage. I'll be thinking, wow, what is this? But yeah, no, there's obviously a lot of pressure on the game. But again, it's the second game of the season.
Interesting you say that about the fixtures and stuff. I think a lot of people talked about us winning on Saturday and Leeds winning yesterday. I agree with you. What you said on Leeds as well, actually. Like, it's not a pen. And I thought Everton looked the most likely of the two, but look, they've got to win. We've got to win. And I think when people are talking about like, oh, it was 3-0, it was brilliant and all this for us, and yeah, it was. Look, and I've been on cloud nine this week. I think getting that win before the other teams, like last season, all got them in October and November. Getting
Yeah,
that win out the way is just so massive because it makes you go, oh, hang on, we can win games in this
yeah,
league. And for the
it,
past,
it relieves the pressure, doesn't it? Like
yeah,
obviously we were in the Premier League for 9 years on the bounce before we got relegated the first time. And obviously, one of them seasons we finished seventh, and that season we won at Stamford Bridge on the opening game, on the opening
mm,
fixture, and it just sets the tone. The pressure's off instantly. You can go into games with a bit of freedom. Like you guys will go into this game with, looser shoulders than us, less pressure on your shoulders and stuff like that. You guys will go into it with a lot more confidence and less. And when there's less pressure, you're less likely to crack and less likely to make mistakes. So, yeah, 100% it matters. And like I said, there's no coincidence that the year we finished seventh, we got a win on the opening day of the season and a big win, and then we can go into the next games full of confidence. Ironically, we did lose the next game at home against West Brom, if I remember rightly. But then we did kick on and obviously did very well in that season.
last season, if you look at, you've touched on it already about the defensive record. If you were to say, how did Burnley get promoted? I think the outside looking in would say dead boring, but never conceded goals. And it was like at points, obviously, we were in the automatic promotion race for a little while. And at points, I just went, I just can't be bothered with Burnley anymore because they just don't concede goals.
Mm.
So the worst they're going to get is 0-0, which means we need to win every week to catch them up. And as it was, we finished however many points it was because we give up at the end and you were well clear. If there's such a thing as a superpower for Burnley, it is the way Scott Parker sets you up in terms of making sure you don't concede. How does he adapt those tactics so to the Premier League? Because the quality is just so massive. Even Saturday, we won 3-0, and there's certain players you were just like, God, they're moving it so fast. It's just completely
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, it is. It's obviously again, even last time, just to go back to the Vincent Company season and how good we were that season. Obviously, a completely opposite side. Like, yes, we were built on defensive foundations last season. The season under Vincent Company, we were built on just strangling the life out of teams, attacking teams to death, just pass, 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 pass. They couldn't get anywhere near us, and then that didn't translate into the Premier League. So then you're thinking, can this Scott Parker system translate into the Premier League? And even though he is. Obviously, Reggie Labrie obviously has never. I don't think he's never managed a Premier League game before, has he? Before until the weekend, where Scott Parker has. But even then, like I think he got sacked early on for Fulham, and he got sacked early on for Bournemouth. So he's not actually that experienced. So it's one of them. Like I do look at the Scott Parker system and compare it to the Reggie LeBrie system and the Daniel Farker system. I think it probably is the most likely to succeed in the Prem. But then the facts are it hasn't done twice. His last game in the Premier League before the weekend, he lost like 9-0 against Liverpool. So it's the proof's in the pudding that maybe it doesn't translate. But I think you are if you're a hard team to beat, you're more likely to do well in the Prem rather than a team that's like we was last time, just so easy to beat and so easy to score goals against. But yeah, losing some of the personnel that we have and not having some personnel fit at the weekend, it's going to be interesting to see how we get on. And interesting as well, this is a type of game where fans won't be happy if we sat back against Sunderland. Of course not. Like if we go to Man United and sit back, or obviously Spurs and sit back, you think, yeah, fair enough, try and nick a point. But it's going to be different this time. We've got to take the game to you in some moments. So it's going to be interesting to see what we do.
As a fan of like Sunderland at the minute, everything feels as good as it ever has since the Phillips and Quinn days. I'm not going to lie to you, like going up the way that it did, I'd take that any day. I think most people take a last minute winner at Wembley in the playoffs over like an automatic promotion race,
Hmm.
as much as I would have maybe changed my mind in February when Wilson Isidore missed two penalties at Turf Moor. I might change my opinion at that point. But it feels brilliant. It feels great. Crest of a wave, all that kind of stuff. Because we've been outside of the Premier League for so long, based on, historically we've not been out for quite a while this long. And now we're back and we're winning games. And we went up was great and everything was fantastic. I imagine though, like it was funny because I spoke to you last season and there was I'm not gonna lie, there was like a confidence that you could get yourselves back up. And it's funny over the past 20 minutes speaking here today, there's kind of as you said before, PTSD from what's happened. How difficult is it being a club like maybe what Norwich were 10 years ago, a Leicester, a Burnley? You're a club that looks too good for the Championship. Like Burnley away was a difficult game last year, as much as, we missed two pens and there were games where you were like, right, this is one of the better teams in the league. This is where we're going to have to really like switch it on. Same with Leeds.
Yeah.
But then when you get up, you're always in a battle to stay up, and at the moment, haven't won it. And obviously, you might this year, it might change. But how difficult is that mindset flipping? Because like you can't get too excited about promotion, I assume. And
Yeah,
that
genuinely, like last year, yes, obviously I was buzzing when we got promoted. Like, obviously, yes, I agree. A last minute winner at Wembley, most fans would take over beating Sheffield United in April, which it was good to do it against them. I'm not going to lie to you, after battling with them for the last few seasons. What I will take is a title winning goal at Ewood Park. I would take that over a last minute winner at Wembley, but
that's
but
fair.
that probably is the only thing I would take over a last minute winner at Wembley. But yeah, like genuinely, this summer I've not been excited at all. Like genuinely, I've not been excited. I've not been looking. Like you guys was. I remember the first time we went up in 2009. A winner at Wembley, not last minute, admittedly. I think it was the 11th, but a winner at Wembley in 2009. I was so excited. I was genuinely beside myself with excitement. I was only 21, to be fair. I'm, a lot older and ugly now at 37-year-old. But I was so excited. This time, I just haven't been because of the PTSD, because of how bad we were last time and the season before that. And it's just a constant battle. And I didn't go to Spurs at the weekend, and it's last year I went to quite a lot of London away days. I didn't go to them all, admittedly, but I went to Watford, QPR, quite a few others as well. I went to Brentford. The thing is, I went to Brentford the last time in the Premier League. It was actually my little boy's first ever Premier League away game. You travel all that way, just you and him in the car, and you get battered 3-0, you get drenched, and you got to walk all the way back to the car. You've paid 25 quid to park your car at some random school in London because the prices are just ridiculous. And I just get to the point now where in the Prem I'm like, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered to do it all again. And like genuinely, like my little boy, he loves it now. Like he got his first ever season ticket last season, and what a season to get your first season ticket. But the season before, I was taking him on anyway, just without a season ticket, just picking and choosing the games. And obviously, that was a Premier League season. And I said to him towards the end of the season, I'm like, "Do you want to come on? We're playing Villa at home or whatever." He went, no. I went, no. What do you mean, no? He went, well, we just get beat every week. I'm like, come on, this is what it's about when unless you're a fan of Liverpool or City, this is what it's a character building, mate. And eventually I dragged him on and he were whinging at half time because we we're 3-0 down probably. But yeah, the excitement, admittedly for me, this summer hasn't been there. Like I do prefer being in the Championship at this stage because we win games in the Championship. We do well in the Championship. It's good to see your team winning games, but at the same time, I'm never one of them that doesn't want to go up. It's a weird mentality with me because I do prefer the Championship because it's better to be in the Championship. I prefer proper football as well. like the grounds that sort of like just pork up out of the like QPR for example. I know everyone calls it a bit of a shithole and that, but I love grounds like that where they just pop up out of terror. You're walking around Shepherd's Bush, like where is it? Oh, it's there. Beautiful, love it. That's what football's all about. Um, but at the same time, you want to be the best that you can be. You have to dine at the top table to be the best football club that you can be, to keep improving as a football club. You're not going to do anything if you're just stagnating in the Championship. Look at Stoke City, for example. They're just slowly going towards League One. Blackburn Rovers are another example. Preston North End, who's obviously never been in the Premier League. But all these clubs that haven't been to the Premier League recently or never been there, you're just slowly fading into insignificance. So yes, I do want to be in the Premier League, but yeah, I'm not excited by the thought of the Premier League anymore. Like I used to get excited about going to Anfield, Old Trafford. Having said that, I'm really looking forward to going to Everton's new stadium this year. That's what I am looking forward to doing. But that's probably the only thing I'm excited about. Ask me again in the reverse fixture when we're 10th, and I might be like, "Well, we're talking rubbish. Fantastic league." But if that happens, I'll play shit live on stream, mate. It's not going to happen.
I'm actually really excited to go to Everton's, but we've got them for our very last away game, so there's potentially
Oh,
not going to be.
yeah,
Hopefully, we're safe and we're sound by then. But I know what you mean with the championship. Like I love the championship and like the last two games of playoffs, like best I've ever experienced. Ballard moment, best I'll ever experience. I'll never get better than that. And I'm confident and comfortable with that. And then you look at the Tommy Watson moment, and even the my end
yeah,
equaliser was just brilliant because just seeing your team score at Wembley and having that moment. But like, I love the championship because we succeeded in it. I
yeah,
think if we didn't and we got beat off Coventry, I would have been like the championship shit. Like I want to be in this
yeah.
other place. So at the minute it feels great because we've won, which is great. But I'm sure if we're there's going like our December fixture list is
Yeah,
awful.
it's
But
a long, hard season. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand why
yeah,
you and Leeds are very excited and stuff on Twitter at the minute, but it's a long, hard season, and there will be times where you've lost 4 or 5 games in a row, and you're thinking this is awful. And if you're looking over your shoulder at that point, or you're rooted into the bottom three, who knows? But yeah, that's when the anxiety comes. That's when the stress comes. As every football fan who follows a proper football club and doesn't just choose them because of something they've seen on TV will understand. So yeah, there's going to be moments this season where you're like, wow, this is a bit awful. But if at the end of it you're 17th, like you said, you won't care one jot.
nah, you take it. I'll take that tomorrow. Couple more for you. As a club, we've done this a few times now where you've kind of maybe not been with us the whole way. We had that one season where you went up and we didn't get through the playoffs. I think as it was, we got beat off Luton and Luton went up. Well,
Yeah.
no, they're getting on by the way. What have you made of the transfer business with Sunderland? We're touching it a little bit before, but like it has got elements of what Burnley did with the young players, which we're sort of known for, I think now, which is kind of a nice thing. But we've added that
Yeah.
experience of like Ronaldo from Atletico Madrid, Granit Xhaka as the poster boy of the transfer window. What have you made of it as a club that have gone up previously, and what have you made of it as someone who knows Sunderland relatively well now, to be honest?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. When I did my pre-season predictions, I had Sunderland bottom because of the fact that you were signing a lot of people that I hadn't heard much of, which is exactly the same as we did last time we were in the Premier League. It didn't work for us. Like I've said already, though, you have done something a little bit different in adding that experience with the likes of Granit Xhaka, and that's why it might work for you guys. But I feel like there's a lot of people that's come in that might not be ready for the Premier League, might not be ready for the physicality. And then I saw you won pretty comfortably at the weekend, and I thought, oh, maybe I have to reassess this Sunderland prediction. But yeah, it's. I'll be honest. I was worried. I was worried when I saw what you were doing. I thought that if they spend too much money here, and they could end up going back to League One and things like that. If it doesn't work out, but it seems like that you signed quite well, is what I'll say at this stage. But I'm basing that off one game, which I didn't even watch, and I've only seen the highlights of, if I'm going to be honest, via YouTube. One thing I will say, and I will ask you this, especially on my show, which we're going to do straight after yours, is you did score 3 goals. But it was only from an XG of 0.68 and a possession of 37%. So it's interesting to see that. Was it just the fact that you were just so clinical in front of goal? What was you the better side? Did you deserve to win, you thought? Did you always 3-0 kind of like a flattering score for Sunderland?
I thought West Ham were slightly the better side first half without actually having many chances. I think Bowen had one chance where it was a good bit of individual skill, but we probably had the best chance in the first half with Diarra. I
Mm.
think with the XG is interesting. I didn't know that, but I suppose none of the goals outside of well, actually none of the goals would go down as expected goals. I would assume based on what because my ender gets up with a header for the we get in between two. Ballard's like a second ball from a corner, and Wilson's from what 25 yards that curls it in, but the possession stat doesn't shock me too much. I think if you watch the Coventry games, people will call it sitting back. or low block
Mm.
as the hipsters call it these days. I think it's a case of just like I think Reggie's just goes, don't make mistakes, stay solid, and then when he can hit the
Yeah,
teams, hit them because our main strength, which I think actually worked twice against Burnley last season, funnily enough, was the pace and the power up front. Like
yeah,
we started doing quite well. I think we got the two penalties when Wilson came on last year. Not Wilson, Mayenda came on last year, and I think hitting teams on the breaks. I think I think he's adaptable, but I think when it comes to teams that on paper have probably got a bit more quality than us, he's quite smart at doing that. But I think Carragher touched on it yesterday. I don't agree with what he said 100%, but he's not wrong in what he said at the same time. He said Sunderland won the game because we won three headers. And I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, because even the third goal is our centre half Alderete who just brought in, beat two West Ham players in the air, and then we break from that. So, yeah, I suppose, but I mean, it's like the possession set doesn't shock me though, mate. Nah, not at all. It's kind of I think we've got used to the first time we did it was Burnley at home. We just sat and like let you have it
Yeah.
a bit, and then I think your team was far under strength compared to that then, but it worked, and that was kind of a springboard to our really good season. But I asked this last week to a West Ham fan. I'm dreading asking this question to a Liverpool fan, but I feel a bit all right asking you this one. I started changing my question last year, as you know, to not who do you think's our best player, but which player would you take to put into your team. Since we're both kind of having the same ambitions, I think this season, which I think it's safe to say, like we've said a few times, 17th, who would be the player that
Yeah.
would fit from Sunderland's team and Burnley's the best and give you a better chance of survival, in your opinion?
What's that striker called again? Is it Isidore? I'd have
Wilson,
him. Yeah,
not on
Wilson
pens
Isidore.
though.
Yeah, well, Trafford's not there now. So, oh, by the way, I know you mentioned the pens three times, but I will always remind you that one of them was not a penalty; it was a free kick outside the box. If that's the right game I'm thinking of, I think it is. But yeah, it's got to be Isidore for me. Just quickly get your squad up on here. But yeah, we need a striker. We just aren't clinical enough. That's the problem. I
Hmm.
like my ender as well, to be fair. And I love the fact that he did the Randy Orton celebration at Wembley. That was just iconic. But yeah, it's one of them two for me. Wilson Isidore or Mayenda because we do need a striker. We need a striker. We've been crying out for a striker. Even I want to say even in the Vincent Company season, but as soon as Nathan Teller left, the Vincent Company Premier League season, but Nathan Teller wasn't a striker. He was like a attacking forward that we put in the number nine role, and he did very well. So even then, we needed a striker, but we were scoring enough goals, and we just this is our third season, or going to be our third season where we're just not scoring enough. So it has to be a striker. So if I had to choose between them two, Wilson is still.
Predictions?
I think we might just edge it because we have to. And
Hmm.
I know you mentioned the fact that well, I mentioned the low XG. I feel like you can't. It's one of them things. Watch this. You'll beat us on Saturday with an XG of 0.01. But stuff like that, it does eventually catch up with you. And I feel like if you're going to do that against us, then I hope it be one of them games there. You're just not as good, just not as clinical. I think it's going to be tight because that's what Scott Parker does. Um, yeah, I'm going to just Burnley edging it, maybe 1-0, 2-1, but it's a tentative prediction that, mate. I'm not confident in it at all, if I'm going to be honest with you. Even though I'm not one of them that will just predict Burnley to win just for the sake of predicting Burnley to win. Like I said, I did my Premier League predictions the other day and put them on Twitter, and I was getting loads of grief off Burnley fans because I had Burnley to finish second bottom. And I was like, a Burnley fan predicting Burnley to go down. I was like, that's what I think will happen. So yes, I'm going to put it. Um, but I think we might just edge it on Saturday. But yeah, we'll see because you did look good on the highlights. I would have watched your game, but you were playing at the same time as Burnley, so obviously Burnley comes first on that one. But yeah, I think we might edge it, but I'll be honest, I'm not confident in it. I won't be putting a tenner on it, put it that way.
I'll go 0-0 because I feel like it's always 0-0. I've been to Burnley
Yeah,
twice and it was 0-0 last year. So would I take it? Win your home games, draw your away games, and we'll get into the Champions League places like we expect to. So
yeah,
aye, 0-0, mate, I think. But Joe, always got to catch up, mate. Hopefully we're
yeah. You
both
too.
still in the Premier League by the end of it, and we'll do it again next season. But we'll do it later in the season either way. So it's not going to be our last time, is it? But
Yeah, definitely.
obviously going to be in yours as well. So if you want to hear me rattle on about Sunderland, you can do. I'll put the link in the description, all that kind of stuff. Please unsubscribe, as I always let you guys know, and see you on the flip side. Hopefully another one to speak about on Saturday.